so many women in midlife really feel stuck. I think it's a time in our life where we start to evaluate kind of our, where we've been and where we're going.
If you want to get unstuck, firstly, do not run from the pain that you feel. The pain is a blessing. The pain is a signal. Cultivate a relationship to the pain and acknowledge the pain. Surrender is the most powerful thing that we can do. It's the real key to success, the real key to manifestation. It is the password to true freedom.
One of the things that surrender meant for me was not quitting, but not being attached to the outcome.
Yeah.
Like, and releasing judgment and releasing the emotion. Surrendering was like trying to release the emotion around it and just surrendering to what is. Hey, Kute, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I already apologized profusely before we hit record for the Southern girl and me mispronouncing your name as cute. I'm sure you get that a million times.
I've had it a few times since I was a kid.
But I am so excited for our conversation today because for a number of reasons. But you have a brand new book, Magic of Surrender, which I think is really so on time for so many women listening to this podcast, because I know that so many women in midlife really feel stuck. I think it's a time in our life where we start to evaluate kind of our, where we've been and where we're going. And for a lot of different reasons, I think that there can be a tendency to just feel really kind of shackled to where you're at. And especially if if you're married or you have kids or you just created this life. And I know for me, it was like one day I woke up and I was like, when I was 40, and I was like, I've created this beautiful life, but I don't know that this is the life that I want, right? And so I want to spend just a little bit of time today, just talking about, how women in midlife can really overcome feeling stuck so that they can start to live out their purpose and live a fulfilled life. So I wanted to just kind of dive right in because I'm so excited to just hear. You're going to be dropping so many nuggets and gems. And all of it. I just really want to just dive right in. And so I'm just curious, why do you think, or what do you think are some of the most common reasons that women in midlife, like that stage of life, really start to feel stuck?
Yeah, look, I'm not a woman in midlife. So I think, so I don't want to speak on behalf of women and your unique experience. And so I don't know if there's just one reason, but I think underneath that, we're all human beings and on the journey of life. And what I can speak to is why we as human beings tend to stay stuck, why we as human beings tend to resist change, why we as human beings tend to avoid following our hearts and truly owning our power. I think ultimately we're stuck because there is fear of change, fear of change, fear of the unknown, fear of not being loved, fear of being out of control, fear of loss, fear of other people's opinions and perceptions, fear of losing love, fear of losing one's sense of value. And so I think as human beings, when you have been a certain way for 30, 40 years, right? You've developed a way of being in the world. You've developed a level of success in the world. You've learned how to navigate life and get love and validation and approval in the world. And it works. And this is a sense of how you get your sense of value and identity and safety and security. And then you talk about change, then you talk about transformation, then you talk about, it can be scary to get to the point where you begin to realize that everything you've created or much of what you've created no longer works, no longer feels valuable, no longer fulfills your soul. And that is a scary point. because ultimately the next level of your life requires the next level of you. The next level of you always requires that you let go of who you were. But the reason why we often stay stuck and we don't let go is because we're afraid, right? And so what we tend to do is hold on to what we know and hold on to what we were and hold on to who we've been out of safety, familiarity, and comfort. And so the ego, and we all have ego, the ego is that sense of self that we kind of mistakenly identify as and believe ourselves to be, right? Based on our roles, our past experiences, our childhood, our traumas, our successes, our failure, everything, our belief structure and system. And we believe ourselves to be a certain person. This is who I am. This is who I am. I'm a CEO. I'm a this. I'm a that. I'm a this. And so the ego doesn't want to change. The job of the ego is to protect you from getting hurt like you were hurt back then. And the job of the ego is to reinforce its existence. And so change for the ego can feel terrifying. Change for the ego can feel like a death. Change for the ego is so scary because if I change and I let go of what I know and my life and what I've been, then who will I be? You know, what will I be? Will I matter? Will I be valuable? Will I survive? Will I make money? Will I it's a survival thing at the deepest level. And so it's scary. But I think many times some of us don't have the courage to get unstuck and make the change in midlife because we've invested so much into a family and to a marriage and to a career and I can't just let this go. And so we keep going. But the consequence of that is you will feel some level of pain. And the other challenge is what we as human beings have learned to do is we suppress this pain. We distract ourselves. We drink it away, smoke it away, sex it away, shop it away, social media it away, travel it away, whatever, just so that we don't have to feel the pain of like, something's not, like I'm feeling dissatisfied in my soul, in my marriage. Something's not feeling right in my career. Something's not I'm feeling off inside. And so the pain manifests as feedback. The pain manifests as a blessing. The pain manifests as your friend. The pain is simply giving us feedback as to something that is not in alignment. But what we have tended to do is we suppress it. And that's what makes us sick. And that's what makes us so mentally and emotionally sick, as in depression and sadness and feeling exhausted and tired. And it's like it takes energy to suppress. And so that's what makes us sort of emotionally heavy and sick. That's what makes us physically, it manifests as a physical pain. Sometimes a backache, shoulder ache, neck ache. It can manifest as an ongoing disease. And so what we have to learn to do is to not, like, if you want to get unstuck, firstly, do not run from the pain that you feel. The pain is a blessing. The pain is a signal. Cultivate a relationship to the pain and acknowledge the pain. Acknowledge it. Then what is necessary, you cannot get unstuck unless you do this one thing, no matter how great your life is, because the challenge is after a certain point, we've invested so much that many of us, we've created a life that's become too small for what our soul is seeking to become. We've created a life that ends up becoming a good life, but sometimes it can become a prison. Some of us, we get caught in a prison of success, where we do something, it works, we keep doing it, but it's no longer fulfilling, we're no longer evolving, we're no longer growing, but oh shit, if I let this go, then, so I would even ask people a question. What is it that you are currently doing that's working? Let me repeat, what is it that you're currently doing that is working? But continuing to do more of it is actually limiting the next level of your growth, evolution, and your soul. If you keep doing it, it works. Yeah, it works. I can make more money. I can sell more homes. I can keep, cranking out business, but I'm dead inside. I'm not feeling alive inside. So what is you're doing that is working, in quotation marks, but it is actually limiting the next level of your soul's growth and evolution, the next level of your full expression, the next level of your purpose, right? And I think if we can start acknowledging that, and so here's the thing that keeps us stuck. All the lies that we tell ourselves. As human beings, for reasons which we can get into, we are constantly lying to ourselves. We lie to ourselves about how we feel. We lie to ourselves about, we stay in relationships that we know deep down no longer align. And we justify, and I've seen many women do this out of good intention. It's like, well, the guy has potential and I can change him and I see the goodness in him, and we start making all of these reasons and excuses, because we want to see the positive, and we end up staying stuck. We end up disowning our true, authentic essence. And so we stay in relationships that we know are not aligned. We work jobs that we know are not aligned. We say yes when we mean no and betray ourselves. And this just leads to more suffering. And so there is no real transformation or breakthrough without truth. We must be willing to tell the truth. We have to want, if you're serious about getting unstuck and shifting your life, you have to want the truth more than you want what you have. You have to want the truth more than you want what you think you want, because it's only the truth that will set us free. And so I'd ask everyone listening to ask yourself, like, what lies am I telling myself? And just sit with that question. But what lies am I telling myself? Deep down, we know. All of us, we know. But sometimes we play this game of confusion. Oh, I'm not sure. I'm confused. I don't know if I should leave, if I should. We know. Deep down, we know. I mean, how many times have we made the decision? We told the truth. We ended the relationship, and you told your best friend, I knew that was never going to work. I knew it. And they'll ask you, well, when did you know? The second date. but I tried to make it work, right? Because we want to believe. And so I think as women especially, like, I would encourage you to be so committed to the truth of your heart, because deep down as women, you have a profound connection to intuition, the unseen, intangible knowing that is beyond the physical three-dimensional senses. And a lot of people will call you as women, and this is just for the women, you as women, you're crazy. How do you know that? But you as women, you know things. And so when you doubt that knowing, you also downplay your own power. And part of the power of women, the feminine inside of us all, but you as a woman in this physical human incarnation, is you have invisible connection to this intuitive knowing that is beyond physical. And I would encourage each and every one of you to trust it, to not question it. For centuries, patriarchal society has brainwashed and caused you to question your knowing, has caused you to wonder, oh, if I can't see it, if I can't touch it, maybe it's not true. But there's things that you see and you know things before they happen. You know things about your husbands and your friends before they happen. You'll tell things I've had experiences where women I've been with have said, Kute, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, you're crazy. And then sure enough, like 3 years later, it's like, I should have just listened to her. And so I would say to each woman, trust your knowing. Do not stop second guessing yourself. When you truly own your knowing, it's a form of owning your power. And when you own your power, this is when you can get unstuck. And so, number one, what lies am I telling myself? What am I pretending to not know? Like, you're not confused. You know, right? Other people might gaslight you and tell you, you know. When you own your knowing, you become truly powerful and unstoppable. Number three, what are the lies that I'm telling myself? What is it costing me? And to actually just acknowledge the cost. It is a cost to disown your truth. It is a cost. And so it might just sound like, I'm feeling stuck. Just acknowledging I'm feeling stuck. That's the truth. Versus, no, I should be grateful for the life I have. I'm feeling stuck. It might sound like I'm really not happy in my marriage. And it's scary for me to say that, but I haven't been happy for 5, 7, 10, 20, however many years, and just feel that. What's scary is, what does that mean? So I tell people, you don't have to take any action. Just acknowledge the truth. I feel unhappy. I'm not happy, fulfilled in my marriage. I feel unhappy doing what I'm doing at work. I have an alcohol problem. Just acknowledge it. No judgment. Just to acknowledge the truth gets you in touch with the moment, gets you in touch with reality, gets you in touch with the feelings underneath that then you can start processing and dealing with that. Because to me, it's the truth that sets us free. And so I would invite every woman, every person, but every woman to start with the truth, to start with those questions. And when you do that, this is when life begins to shift. This is when life begins to change. There's a question I ask people that come to some of my events. And at the beginning, I ask every person, what do you want more than anything else? Simple question. What do you want more than anything else? And most people say, I want to get unstuck. I want to be free. I want to break through. But if you really look at it, no, you don't. Because many times we're more invested in looking good. We're more invested in what people are going to think about us. We're more invested in pleasing people. But it's like if I took your head and stuck it in a bathtub under the water, right? And you couldn't breathe for 5 minutes. And I asked you, if your head was underwater, what would you want more than anything else? A handbag?
Right.
Some chocolate?
Right.
$1 billion?
Right.
The only thing you would want more than anything else is air. And if you really want to get unstuck, if you want to be free, truly, with all of your being and essence and with every part of you, if you want freedom more than anything else, truly, nothing will stop it. And so many times we stay stuck because there are unconscious payoffs that we have for staying stuck, internal conflicts and payoffs. Oh, if I get like many times, and I've seen this with women that have come to my events, it's like they won't tell me at first, but they won't sort of have the breakthrough. Then I'll get underneath and I'll see why they haven't had the breakthrough, why they have not gotten unstuck. It's this deeper fear of, if I free myself and step into my power, that might mean that I can, like, my relationship is not going to work anymore with my husband. It's like, we're not going to be energetically, vibrationally matched anymore. So I can't really afford to break free and be my magnificent self because my relationship is clearly going to be over. So it's kind of unconscious. So if I keep myself small, then we can stay at the same level and the marriage can continue, but I'm miserable, right? And so there's many, so I'd invite each person to sit with, what are the unconscious payoffs that I have for staying stuck? Maybe I don't have to put myself out there. Maybe I don't have to ruffle the feathers and lose my father's or mother's or family's validation. Because if you can acknowledge those sort of internal unconscious payoffs and conflicts, then you can see what is sort of driving and keeping you stuck as well.
I love that. And I mean, you could probably see me, I'm writing feverishly because there's so many things that I want to unpack there. But just to kind of, one of the last things you spoke about was the unconscious payoffs. Oh, God, I love that topic because I see this so much in women too. Even ones where a very, very common one I see is the woman who says, the mom, the working mom, maybe even who says, like, I don't have time. I don't have time to take care of me. And a lot of times I know this was me for years, the unconscious payoff that I was getting is that I felt needed. And if I stopped doing everything, if I stopped doing everything for everyone else all the time, even though I was resentful, even though I was exhausted, even though my health wasn't great, I wasn't sleeping, all the things. But on a subconscious level, if I stopped doing that, then who was I? I wasn't needed anymore. And I got my validation from feeling needed.
That's honest, to acknowledge, like, you know what? I'm actually doing this for myself.
Yes.
And I'm doing this to compensate for my own feeling not worthy, feeling not loved, right? That's hard to acknowledge. Like, I'm actually doing this for myself. And to be able to just tell the truth about that is like, I'm doing this out of my need to be needed.
Yeah.
I'm doing this from my own inadequacy, my own insecurity, because it's only when you actually acknowledge that you can bring healing to that part of you. It's only when you acknowledge that truth of, that doesn't sound pretty, like, oh, I need to be needed. Why? Because I'm afraid that I won't be loved otherwise, right? Or whatever it might be. When you acknowledge that, then you can direct the healing work to deal with what that is. And that's when the healing can happen. Because ultimately, healing is applying loving to those parts of you that are hurting. Mm-hmm. But if you don't apply it, but if you don't tell the truth about what you're hurting about, you're never able to bring healing to that part of you. So then you're going to stay stuck and keep going around in circles, doing the same thing over and over again without the ability to actually make a shift. Because everything you've known as to how to get love and validation is a certain way.
Yes. But how does somebody, and I know we were talking about like really, getting to the truth of your heart and really understanding, uncovering the lies and acknowledgement and all of that. But I think that's where a lot of women and just humans, I think, don't know how to uncover those lies, or they don't know how. And I know some of it is innate, right? If you really get quiet and think like you do know, tapping into the intuition. But some of it, though, I think, like, so for instance, for me, the idea of, that I was doing everything for everyone because I wanted to feel needed, that wasn't like a conscious thought that I walked around with. That for me, took a lot of, therapy. It took a lot of me getting quiet with introspection. Are there any other practices or tools that you really like to suggest to help women really get to some of these acknowledgments, some of these truths?
I don't think there's any magic here.
Okay.
Right? Like I don't think there's like a magical like booger technique to just take the cell phone, wave it across your head 3 times, and then there's like and the app that just downloads your deeper conflict. I think it really takes the commitment, the intent. You have to have the commitment, the intention. Like, I want to get to the bottom of this. Because if there's no intention, it's like being in a relationship with someone. You can be in a relationship with someone, but if they don't really have an intention to make this an amazing relationship, an intention to like really commit and go deep, you can just exist with someone in a relationship hanging out, but it doesn't really go anywhere. Right? Mm-hmm. So if you have an intention, like, I am going to heal myself, a commitment, an intention, and then you really either get help through therapy or a coach or some process, right? Or you make it a point where you say, I'm going to sit down every day, 20, 30, 40 minutes, an hour a day, and just journal and write. And I'm just going to write my thoughts out every day. And just explore, what is the truth? Why, like, as an example, someone comes to me and says, Kute, I'm not making money, and I'm struggling with money, and I really want to make money. And then I'll ask him, well, why do you actually want to struggle with money? Why do you actually want, like, I'm tired of things being hard and things being difficult and life being a struggle. I'll flip it and say, why do you actually want to struggle? I don't want to struggle. Well, yes, you do, because everything you're doing is showing you that you want to struggle, but I don't, and I'm tired of it. It's like, why do you want to struggle? Oh, now that flips the question. Like, I had a woman, I'll give you a few examples. This might trigger things for people, like stir things. A woman that came to me that was struggling financially in midlife, actually. And she was like, I'm tired of the financial struggle. I'm tired. And so I asked her, why do you want to struggle? She was like, I don't want to struggle. And she got into it, like, and she started getting defensive and mad. And often, many times when people start getting defensive and upset, you know that you're getting close to the truth. Because the ego defense mechanism starts reacting when you get closer to the truth. And so she started getting a bit defensive and upset, like, I don't want to struggle. I'm tired of the financials. Like, why do you want to be financially struggling, even sometimes broke? Why? I don't want, and she kept defending her position. I don't want it. Eventually she just sort of stopped being defensive for a moment. And she said, okay, why do I actually want to struggle financially? Why? What would it be? And as she sat with it, she had this, like, she said, I had this craziest thought. Like, if I'm just being honest without filtering, So I invite people just to not filter. So she was journaling and we were talking. And she came back to me and she said, I realize now that I do want to struggle financially. I said, well, tell me why. She said, because if I actually be successful, make my money, thrive, make millions. She goes, right now, my father supports me financially. I said, tell me more. And none of this was conscious because her father was wealthy. My father gives me money every month, supports me, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't want this, but it is what it is. And she said, I realize now that I want to struggle financially because if I broke free and became a multimillionaire, became financially independent, my father wouldn't give me money. And I realize now that in a strange way, the way I feel loved by my father is he gives me money. And this is how I feel a connection with him. This is the only way I feel a connection with him because he wasn't there emotionally. He wasn't there in so many ways. And so if I actually don't need him anymore, I'm afraid that I won't feel a connection with him anymore. And so it was a revelation for her. So I think if we're willing to just be still, have the intention, commitment, and just start exploring, like, why do I want what I say I don't want? Why do I actually want that? Like, why do you actually not want to manifest X, Y, Z? Why do you actually, like, a thing I'll ask people when they come to my seminars, they're like, I want to be free. I want to be free. I said, no, you don't. Like, what do you mean I'm here? I said, tell me all the reasons why you don't want to be free. And so that can start excavating the internal conflicts and bringing them to the surface. I don't want to be free because I'm afraid my relationship would probably be over. I don't want to be free because I don't think I could do the job anymore. And so when we can start being honest about the deeper level truths, that's when we start freeing ourselves. But it does take a willingness. It sometimes does take some support and help and guidance from a guide, as a therapist, a coach, a healer, what have you. And it takes creating the space in your life so that you can hear the truth. Many times we keep ourselves so busy running around, taking care of the kids, going here, working, helping everyone, so that we don't have to, like, be still for a moment. Because I think sometimes there's a part of us that is afraid. If I'm actually still, like, we can feel the truth that's like bubbling layers underneath. We can sense it bubbling, especially women. You can sense things bubbling and you might not be conscious about it. And so sometimes we busy ourselves so that we don't have to be still to actually connect to the deeper truth that we know is down there. So you got to want the truth and then create the spaces in your life to be able to hear and listen to the truth that you sense is there.
Absolutely. And, and I think, I got asked this question the other day about, what do you, how would what advice would I give somebody, a woman who maybe is, struggling, maybe in a relationship or struggling in their career and they do feel stuck, and, what is your approach to help them get unstuck? And I said, it's very simple. It's literally just creating the space to get quiet. And I think for so many women who are, doing, wearing so many hats, it's kind of become like the modern woman now who's, taking care of the kids and working the job and doing all the things, right? It's such a simple practice of literally just getting quiet for even like 5 minutes or taking a walk without an audiobook or without a podcast or whatever, and just being with your own, still. It's something that sounds so simple, but something that what I've learned, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, that so many people don't do. They don't afford themselves that space. And I think so. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with you that is where it comes. That's where it starts, is creating that space. And I love, love, love what you said about really flipping the script on when you say like, oh, I'm broke or I'm unhappy or I'm struggling or I'm stuck, and flipping the script and say, I love to be stuck because, or I love to be broke because, or whatever that looks like, and really going deep on that.
Yeah.
What a powerful way to flip that. I love that.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I was in a relationship many years. I was maybe 21 years old when I met this woman, and fell madly in love with this beautiful woman that was, you know, so out of my league, but she was like the one, right? And I thought, I'm going to marry this woman and we're going to have kids. And but it's funny. She was. This is just to sort of paint the example. She was so. Let's just say she was extremely jealous, but to an extreme. Like we would go out, and I would just turn around, and she would accuse me of basically cheating. I mean, it was like madness. And there's a whole
Crazy,
sort of,
yeah.
you know, perfect dynamic that we won't get into. But
Yeah.
she was extremely jealous, and so I lasted 4 years. We broke up, sadly, for me at the time. Then I met another woman who was also really jealous. Not quite as jealous, but pretty like 70%. And then eventually I had to ask myself, and I sat down and go, I keep attracting jealous women. Okay, I can say it's them, but I'm the common denominator here. So the question this is when I learned to ask myself the question, why do I want to be with a jealous woman? And my ego's like, I don't want to be with it. It's like, no. Cool. You keep choosing jealous women, but I didn't know they were, but you keep ending up with them, right? So why do I want to be with a jealous woman? And similar to your example, what I had to acknowledge, if I was to get still and be really honest for a moment, was I wanted to be with a woman that was quite jealous, extremely jealous, because it made me feel needed. Because
And
if she was
protected,
jealous,
right? Yeah.
yes, if
Yeah.
she was
Yeah.
jealous, then she sure as hell wasn't going to abandon me.
Yeah.
And for the little boy in me that had a fear of abandonment, it's like,
Yes.
if I was with a woman, I was like, yeah, do whatever you want, see you later, bye. I was like, you know, it sounded great, but wait a second. It wasn't fulfilling that need and that inadequacy inside. But with a woman that was jealous, she was like, certainly not going to leave me. And so being with a jealous woman was my way or compensation of not feeling insecure about being left. And until I acknowledged that, I was stuck. When I just told myself the truth about that for a moment, it was like my whole reality changed. Then I could actually, you know, do some inner work with that little boy, with that young Kute that felt abandoned, you know, in so many ways, and bring some healing there. So, yeah.
I can totally identify with that. I mean, gosh, especially after my divorce, I went on like a jealous man spree. And I think for me, I think it was the same thing. It was like if I really had to, when I really got quiet and started to acknowledge it for me, because I also suffer from a lot of like abandonment issues from when I was a child and my parents getting divorced and all the things. And I realized that if somebody was jealous over me, or I equated that to being protective.
Yeah.
And so if I was protected, like then I was safe. And
Safe.
so even though like the subconscious payoff that it was giving me was this sense, this false
Yeah.
false
Yeah.
sense of security.
Yeah.
But that was really a hard truth for me to uncover because
Yeah.
I went through a lot of painful relationships
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The truth will set you free. That,
Yeah.
like, if there's one thing that's going to unstuck your life, the truth is the truth that will set you free.
So where does surrendering fall into all of this? Where does surrendering fall into getting unstuck?
Yeah, surrendering is letting go. You know, surrendering is a letting go of control or the illusion that we're even in control in the first place. You know, surrendering is a letting go of the way that you think your life should be. The idea of my life should be this way. Oh, but if I let go, then my life's not going to be this way. And so, no, let me hold on, right? So it's a letting go of the holding on. It's a letting go of the idea of how we think our life should be, who we think we should be, how we think we should be living, so that we can allow the authentic expression of life to really emerge, you know? And so I think that what I have found and feel is that surrender is the most powerful thing that we can do. It's the real key to success, the real key to manifestation. It is the password to true freedom. It's the password to true freedom. And so there is no freedom without true surrender. And so it's a letting go of everything and everyone that is not aligned with your highest good, right? It's a letting go. I think in our culture today, there's this misconception that surrender is weak, that surrender is giving up, that surrender is waving the white flag, that if you surrender, you're going to be a doormat. If you surrender, you're going to get left behind. If you surrender, you will not manifest your goals, dreams, and desires. But I actually think that no, if you actually understand the true essence of surrender, like what if you didn't get less, but you got more? Like more than you could have imagined. And so I think so many of us, we're holding on out of fear and control and everything we talked about. We're holding on to ourselves, a relationship, our life as we know it. It's like we're holding on to a peanut. We're not realizing that holding on to the peanut is preventing us from being available to the buffet, right? That life is, sometimes life is seeking to bless us with a buffet, but we're like, no, it's got to be this issue. It's got to be this person. And we don't realize that we're the ones blocking our blessings, holding on to that which is no longer aligned, holding on to that which is no longer working is our affirmation of our lack of trust in the universe, and is how we keep ourselves stuck. We are keeping ourselves stuck by holding on. And when we're holding on so tightly to our life and our relationship that may not be aligned, we're closed. And so the blessings may come, but we're not able to receive them because we're holding on to that which is no longer working. And so I think when we truly surrender, we are letting go. When we truly surrender, we are releasing. When we truly surrender, that is when we are open and we're available to life. And yes, when you surrender, you might let go of things and people and relationships, but the only thing you're really letting go of is that which was not really aligned in the first place, not really authentic for you in the first place, authentic with who you are now. And so I really believe that it's the letting go that creates the space for new possibilities, new people, new blessings, new opportunities to flow into your life. Many of us, our life is so cluttered with old people, old energies, old relationships, that there's no room for new blessings to show up. And so surrender is the clearing. Surrender is that blessing.
How does somebody know, though, when to surrender and when to fight? Right? Like, let's just say if we're talking in the context of a relationship, right? I mean, I think how can you tell
in
the
a
difference?
Relationship? Yeah. Okay, let's speak in the context of relationship.
Yeah.
Right? I think I just need to say something on relationship to set the context.
Okay.
A lot of what we think of we've been brainwashed about relationships is from Hollywood movies. And we see the Hollywoodized movie version on Disney about relationships and, what have you. And I think it sort of brainwashes us a little bit to misperceive what relationships are. It's like, we seek for another person to complete us and you complete me, right? It's like, you're the one, I'd be not. I mean, look at, was it the Shania Twain song? It's like, if there was no sun, I'm going to butcher the song, but if there was no sun, I'd be nothing without you. I'm nothing without you. If there's no rain, like it's, I don't know if you know the song I'm talking about.
Yeah, You're the One. I'm pretty sure is what it's called.
If the sun wasn't shining, then, if you weren't here, the sun wouldn't shine. It's like, what kind of nonsense brainwash? This is what brainwashes people. And people don't realize, and so it runs deep from the movies and the music. And so much of our sense of love and relationship has become a looking for somebody who is going to complete us and make us whole. And as a result, we make that person now the source of our happiness, the source of our sense of love. And because now that person, the husband, the spouse, the boyfriend, has become the source of my validation and happiness, we don't realize that relationship is really now a drug. And now we are in a need-based relationship where we've become dependent on that person to give us a sense of value and validation. This is not love. This is like relationship as a drug. It's like, I need you to fulfill me. I need you and I'm nothing without you. That's not love. That's not true love. And so to me, relationship, we have to realize that we are souls. We are all souls, and we incarnate into this beautiful human experience in order to learn, in order to grow, in order to evolve. Life is kind of like it's like a university for our soul's growth and evolution. And everyone we attract to us in relationship is our teacher. And everyone we attract to us, we have some karma with, we have some lessons to teach each other and learn. So everyone you attract to you in a relationship, you attract that person to you because, number one, they were a vibrational match. Number two, there were certain lessons to learn. Number three, there's something that you needed to learn, to grow, to evolve, to heal, to embrace within yourself. And they are a mirror manifestation of some aspect of yourself. They are mirroring to you some aspect of yourself that you get to heal, integrate, learn, embrace, let go of, make peace with, something. And so there really is no relationship out there. It looks like there's a relationship out there with a person out there on one level. But really, you're in relationship with aspects or an aspect of yourself that you have magnetized, and that person represents, that person embodies some aspect of your own energy, your own subconscious, your own self. So really, relationship is a mirror. You are in relationship with yourself, mirrored and projected in the form of the person or the people that you are attracting to you over and over and over and over again. You meet yourself in the person. I'm not saying every aspect, but you meet aspects or a part of yourself in the person. And it might be the parts of yourself that you haven't made peace with your own parents in childhood that show up, and you've attracted that person to sort of complete that. So that's why I say relationship is a mirror. And so when you understand that, then you also understand the purpose of relationship. The purpose of relationship, we think, get roses, have chocolate, drink champagne, watch a few movies, go on vacation to Greece. I mean, hey, that's all great and lovely. I'm not saying don't have fun, but the real purpose, I would say, of relationship, when you understand that you're a soul and you understand why you've attracted that person, the real purpose is your soul's growth and evolution. And the real success of the relationship, because every relationship is a classroom, is not how long you stay together, although that's cool. The real purpose of relationship is the degree to which you learn the lessons and the degree to which you become the most authentic version of yourself. And that's the real success of the relationship. You can stay together with someone for 50, 60, 70 years of your life, not grow, not evolve, devolve, become less of yourself, suppress, shut down, disconnect. Is that a success? You can be with someone for 3 years, 3 months, 2 years, and it be the most transformational experience of your life where you grow, you evolve, they grow, you evolve. But so how do you know when to keep going, when to keep going, when to persevere, when to let go? I would say that two things. When you and another person have come to a point where you're no longer growing and evolving in a relationship, and if you're no longer growing and evolving and becoming sort of higher versions of yourself, and they're no longer growing and evolving, then you have to ask yourself, what are we just doing together? Because then you're not really in relationship. You're not relating. You're just existing. You're basically dead in a relationship, because relationship is about growth and evolution. So if neither of you are growing and evolving, then you get to acknowledge that and have a conversation to see if there's a willingness to grow and evolve. And so I would say that relationship is over when one person refuses to grow and evolve. This is, I'm not willing to grow and evolve anymore. You can stay together, but you don't have a relationship. Or one person is clearly says, I am no longer willing and committed to serving your growth and evolution anymore. You can be like, no, but I'm going to... If they're like, I have no interest in, I'm just saying it in this sort of spiritual words, but I have no interest in serving your soul's growth and evolution anymore, your relationship is done. You might be married on paper, but your relationship is over. And so if you're looking at, now we want to look at surrender in the context of relationship. Surrender doesn't mean you quit and divorce. Surrender is really about surrendering to the lessons that the relationship is here to teach you. And when you can surrender to the lessons that the relationship is here to teach you, you don't just jump and run and like, let me go to the next person, because ultimately all lessons are repeated until learned, and you will only attract yourself to you in the form of another person, different hairstyle, different nose, different name, different style, different, different beard. One has a beard, one doesn't have, but it's the same shit, right?
Same shit.
So you can't run away from yourself. So the real surrender is not divorce or not divorce. The real surrender is to say, what is the lesson for why I've attracted this person? And let me surrender to working through the lesson. And if both of you can understand the purpose of relationship, then you can understand that you can both serve each other's growth to work through the lesson together. And I would say, so long as there's that joint commitment, then you can keep growing and evolving to higher levels. And so long as you have similar values and you're growing at a similar rate, a similar pace, in a similar direction, you can keep growing and evolving forever. And sometimes in relationship, one person grows a bit more. But if the other person is willing to grow, then they can grow. And then sometimes they grow a bit more. And then you grow, and they force you to grow. And part of a relationship is one person grows, you grow, they grow, you keep growing. So long as that growth can keep happening, you have a relationship. The problem becomes when one person just stops growing, refuses to grow, and you're just growing on your own. And then, that might be, when someone is no longer willing to grow and evolve, that might be a point to, that's not about surrendering. That is a point to accept and acknowledge that it's no longer working. Because you can, look, I think too many people, especially in our modern day culture, more with the younger generation, relationships have become disposable. Someone has a mini breakdown, like, oh, it's over. Let me just swipe to the left and move on to the next person. Yeah. And I think in so many ways, technology has made relationships disposable, because in the olden, 10 years ago, 15 years ago,
you can call it the olden days. It is the olden days. Listen, I'm 40. I'm 45. Those are the olden days, but I embrace it.
But like 10 years ago, you used to have to like go up. A guy would have to go up to someone in a park, in a bar, in a yoga, somewhere in a physical space and say, "Hey, Amber, I would love to get to know you. Like, can I have your phone number?" Now it's just swipe to the left, swipe to the left, swipe to the left. And so there's no connection anymore. So relationships have become kind of disposable. And so I think it's made us weak, because the moment shit hits the fan in relationships and deep shit comes up. See, love will tend to bring up the unresolved issues inside, because if relationship is about growth, then everything that is unresolved has to come up if you're truly growing together. So often today, when stuff comes up, people run. People just quit. And quitting is not surrendering. And so sometimes when the real tough stuff comes up, the real deeper level fears and patterns and childhood stuff comes up, because it's going to come up. Any good relationship is going to bring up stuff. When stuff comes up, sometimes surrender is to say, this is difficult. This is triggering me. This is scary, because she wants to run and I have a fear of being abandoned. And I want to run too now, because I don't want her to abandon me. And so do we quit or do we stay? And sometimes surrender is to say, you know what? I'm going to surrender to the lesson, and I'm going to stay in this relationship and work this through. Because to be honest, either you work it through together and maybe it works. But if you stay and surrender and do the work, then if you do break up, you will have learned the lesson and you'll be ready for a new experience. So does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I know for me, and I love that you say surrendering is not quitting. I would say for me, and I know surrender can mean a few different things, but for me, one of the things that surrender meant for me was not quitting, but not being attached to the outcome.
Yeah.
Like, and releasing judgment and releasing the emotion. Surrendering was like trying to release emotion around it, and just surrendering to what is.
Like surrender is not giving up. surrender is not just, what I want to make clear is it's not just, I'm just going to follow the flow and the flow is leading me to smoke weed or cocaine. That's not surrender. That's just following your addiction, right? I'm going to surrender. So I'm married, but I'm attracted to this woman and the flow is taking me to sleep with her. It's like, that's not surrendering. That's just being, being weak and following a biological urge. And so sometimes surrender is doing what you don't feel like doing in a moment, because you have a deeper commitment to something greater. And so as an example, I didn't feel like writing my book. I don't like writing. I like talking. But if I just followed whatever I felt, I would never have written the damn book. We wouldn't be talking here. So every day I sat myself down and made myself write. And I had to surrender to that process because there was a deeper commitment I had for people to be transformed by reading my book, The Magic of Surrender. And so sometimes surrender means you don't do what you feel like doing because you're committed to something greater. It might mean you go where it's scary, even though you don't want to go, because your soul is guiding you. But the key, as you mentioned, is not being attached to the outcome. So once you catch the vision for what is true, you give 100%. It's about giving 100%. So, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Give 100%, but don't be attached to the outcome. Often the attachment is what keeps us stuck, because now we're no longer open to like course correcting. No, sometimes the goal is not the goal. Sometimes the goal
is the process.
The spirit. The goal is like the carrot that the universe uses to take you on the journey, so that you can go on the process to learn the lesson. Sometimes the relationship that you thought was the one, it's not really the one. It just needed to look like the one in the moment to get you to do the inner work so you could heal to be ready for the person.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Kute, thank you so much. As we wrap up, just the magic of surrender. Who exactly is this book for?
Wow, it's for anyone that's ready to transform. It's for anyone that's ready to heal, transform. If you want more freedom, more joy, more abundance in your life. I look at the great ones: Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Mandela, Martin Luther King. At some point, all of these people, they surrendered themselves to truth. They surrendered themselves to the divine. They surrendered themselves to their soul. And in that surrender, life was able to use them. Life was able to manifest through them. And what I have seen is that when you truly surrender, what life can do through you is more than anything you can do on your own, because you tap into another dimension of grace and potential. And that's where the real magic happens. And so, if you want more magic in your life, I would say this book is for you.
Or if you don't want more magic in this life, then don't get the book.
Don't get the book.
Don't buy the book. Oh my gosh, where can the listeners reach out to you? I think you have an event coming up that I would love for you to share with the listeners.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Kute Blackson. My website, Kute Blackson. But if you're in a place where you feel as though you've been put on the planet for a purpose bigger than yourself, and you feel ready to transform and heal and share your gifts with the world. For the last 13 years, twice a year, I've done a very special event. It's my most, I'd say, transformational event that I've done. It's called Boundless Bliss, the Bali Breakthrough Experience. It's 12 days with me in Bali. And I've done 23 of these events. It's revolutionary. It's transformational. It's 12 deep days, unlike any experience, I would say, on the planet. 2024 is actually my final year doing this event. And so the next event is December the 5th through the 16th. That's 5 through 16, 12 days with me, a small group, 18 people, and we dive deep. And so, you can find out more, www.boundlessblissbali.com. That's boundlessblissbali.com. Go to the website, watch the video, and apply for an interview.
I love that. And of course, we'll have all of that in the show notes. Kute, thank you so much for being here. I honor and appreciate you.
Thank you.